Our featured speaker is Victor Menasce, our business coach. Victor Menasce is the managing partner of U.S. Real Estate Partners, specializing in new development in several cities, president of Igloo Rental Management, a Toronto-based property management company. He's president of the Ottawa Real Estate Investors Organization and the author of The Great Canadian Takeover. He also coaches a few select business clients across North America. I'm all alone. I'm very sad. Victor spent the first part of his career in high tech, where he held a number of senior roles in telecom and semiconductor companies. Many of the products you have interacted with over the years have been the result of Victor's work. Thank you, Victor. I appreciate it a lot. This includes the seatback displays on most airliners, LG plasma TVs, Cisco and Apple Wi-Fi access points, HP and Brocade storage products, Motorola, Ericsson, Nokia cellular base stations, to name a few. If you made a phone call anytime after 1991, chances are your phone call was processed by a chip Victor designed. Victor has been involved in 5 different mergers and acquisitions, raised about $300 million for new projects and corporate buyouts. He's a frequent guest on both radio and TV and speaks regularly on business growth and real estate development. He's working on a new book called Startupology. Coming towards me. Oh, okay. The science of transforming startups into big business overnight. Victor is an avid sailor, holds a Marine Master's certificate, and spends about 45 days a year on the water. This is nice. So if the business doesn't work out, he can always get a job as a sea captain. He has 5 children, all in their 20s. He's married to the incomparable Natasha. He's fluent in Italian, French, and a bit of English. Something a few people know about Victor is that he is a 13th generation direct descendant of Christopher Columbus. Wow. So luckily there are no First Nations people in this room.
Thanks very much. So, put up your hand if you think business is complicated. It can be, and it can be a little bit overwhelming. And I entitled this talk, Business in 78 Easy Steps. And it kind of feels that way at times. And the key to being successful in business is actually to break it down and actually simplify it. Because if you have a system with 78 different variables, guess what? Almost none of those variables actually impact the business. There's only a handful that really do. So one of the things that I do is I get rid of all the distractions and enable you to focus on the things that really make a difference. So what I'm going to talk about today are a few of the key things that are critical to the growth of any business, and I'm going to go through a few case studies and then open it up to questions. So there's really 3 ways to grow the business. Number 1, get more clients. Take your existing clients and charge them more, either sell them something of higher value or raise your price. And then finally, take your existing clients and get repeat business, sell them more stuff. Those are really the only 3 ways to grow a business. So, depending on what your business is, you may want to focus on 1 or 2 or perhaps even all 3 of these. If you go into business, there are 7 disciplines that define any business. And when I say a business, I don't mean a solopreneur, I mean a business that can scale. But my definition of a business is one that you as the business owner can step out of it, go spend a week or a month on the beach, and the business continues to function. If you can't do that, it's not a business. Now, in any arena in your business, if there is an area that's critical, you've got to be able to point to an individual who is a specialist in that area, and they are actually responsible for that area. So you need someone responsible for each of these 7 areas. If you don't have that, you're doing a best effort or ad hoc something or other trying to make it work, but chances are you're not doing it well because you don't have a specialist responsible for that one critical area of the business. You've got to have a specialist responsible for each of those 7 areas. Otherwise, it's going to be virtually impossible to scale your business. Most people go into business because they are strong technicians. They may be a good attorney, they may be a good carpenter, they may be a good baker. Whatever it is, whatever their specialty is, that's what they focus on. And they tend to focus on the technical aspect. Then they say, well, I'm going to be the best one of that. So then they focus on quality control. But what they're neglecting are the other elements of the business. They tend to be very focused on the technical aspects. And that's usually the weakness that most businesses experience. Now, I've come across some entrepreneurs that are actually very good marketers and they're weak in other areas. So what's gating your business could be any one of these things, or perhaps several. And what we do as business coaches, what I do as a business coach is, like I said in my earlier talk, shine a spotlight on those areas where you're weak. Shine a spotlight on the areas that are missing. And it's not to make you any better at those things that you're not good at. It's to bring people into your team that are really good at that thing that you're missing to complement you. That's the essential piece. Most of the time, even though it seems overwhelming, you say, well, I'm good at one thing or I'm good at two things, but I'm missing the other five. That can feel overwhelming. And what we focus on is, what is the one thing that's gating you right now? For most businesses, it's usually the last one. They don't know how to get more clients. They don't know where their clients hang out. If you can figure out where your clients hang out, and you can figure out, most importantly, not just how to communicate with them, but actually how to connect with them. That's the important piece. How do you connect with them so that they feel compelled to do business with you? Not just maybe, yeah, I'll think about it. Really compelled to do business with you. That's how you get lasting business. And so this is usually, depends on the business. This is usually what I focus on first, because that's usually most people's weakness. But it's not always the case. So I'm going to go through a couple of case studies here and show you some of the things in a couple of different diverse businesses, types of things that we do. So this is Chelsea. She's a client of mine. She lives in North Carolina, 25 years old, trained as an interior designer, so you may be interested in this. It's a brand new business. She'd worked as an employee in another interior design business for a couple of years, and she started out from a blank sheet of paper. She couldn't take any of her existing clients from the business because that would be theft, so she had to start from a blank sheet of paper. She had no business experience, she had no website, really starting from a blank sheet of paper. And she had 2 months, otherwise she wouldn't be able to make her rent. Okay, so talk about jumping off the deep, jumping into the deep end, all right? To her credit, she had a strong network of contacts in the community. She had spent time really developing relationships, and she'd put herself in a leadership role in the local Interior Design Association Business Council. So she had that working in her favor. So after 6 months, she has a strong web presence. She is busy as all get out, which is very gratifying to see. And she's now hiring staff because she can't do all the business herself. So she is scaling up, and that's in 6 months. So what do we do? How do we achieve that? First thing we did is focus on creating a presence for her online, and not to necessarily drive traffic, but to validate her. Because what happens is, if you meet somebody, and you all do this, you may not be aware, you all do this, before you do business, you go check them out online. If you can't find their website, you say, are they for real? Or if their website is terrible, you go, and you'll move on. So we needed to develop a very, very strong website that made her look extremely established. Now, one of her weaknesses was she had no portfolio. What do you do as an interior designer if you have no portfolio? How do you create a web presence that looks credible? So we thought about this a little bit and came up with the idea of what we call, what I call a microfocus. So rather than showing completed rooms, we put together these collections of materials and gave them names. So for example, she has the Aspen collection, she has the Montreal collection, all these different collections of materials that go together, both materials, furnishings, accents, so she can show people different themes. And with a very large portfolio like that, it looked like a very established business with a lot of history, even though she was really just starting out. Second thing we did is we focused on how to get her a sustainable level of business quickly. Now, getting new clients takes about 7 times the effort compared with getting repeat business. So we focused on, rather than trying to get new clients, focused on small and medium-sized builders who really don't have interior design as a discipline. And they're really actually quite poor at managing the whole upgrade process and change orders. So she basically offered herself as the outsourcing solution to several local builders. And she put together portfolios, silver, gold, platinum packages, an entire upgrade process, and she manages the client interaction. So rather than focusing on business to consumer, she focused on business to business. And she only needed to get 3 clients, 3 different builders, to be full in a very, very quick time period. Second business, this is Empire Deck and Fence. They're a local Ottawa business. They did about $650,000 last year. I'll let you pass these around. And the goal is to double that basically this year. They have a very strong web presence already, so they already had that part working, but they were really not very focused on different aspects of the business. And the owner, he's also a young guy. His goal is to hire a general manager, step out of the business so he can do other things. So we did a bunch of different things. We did some market segmentation, figured out where the most money was. Turns out if you're doing decks and fences, the most money isn't people who are installing in swimming pools, because they're actually going to spend the most money on their backyard. So that's the highest value client. Decided to focus on that particular segment. I won't go through all of this. This is the brochure that we put together. It's pretty sharp. It's a very effective sales tool. We improved their product margin, got a distribution agreement with the suppliers, and put a lumber yard in place. Not a very expensive thing to do, but got him an improvement in his gross profit margin by 12%, which is significant. That's number 2. Number 3, this is a real estate client of mine. Daryl, I think you know this individual. He had some experience with single family homes. He was kind of struggling. He'd barely made money, lost a little bit of money on some of the projects that he'd done, and limited in terms of time, limited in terms of capital. Wanted to really take things up to the next level. So we set a goal to create value of at least $700,000 this year and generate at least $100,000 of additional net worth on his personal balance sheet. He had had no success in Ottawa. So I introduced him to my network, and what we focused on, and this doesn't look very good on the screen here unfortunately, this is a neighborhood of Philadelphia. To the south is a very expensive neighborhood, and there's a pretty sharp dividing line. The further north you go, you get into the hood. And these stars that you see on the map, those are actually properties that I own in that particular area. And basically all we're doing is taking that dividing line, we buy on the line, develop and move the line. It's a very simple process. It's not always easy, but it's simple to understand. And so we just acquired 2 properties for him where it says 5 unit. That's these 2 buildings right here, side by side. We purchased them independently for a total of about $83,000. Plan is to put 5 units across the 2, and when you are 5 units, you qualify for commercial financing, as Victor can tell you, which is a different set of rules than residential underwriting, so it's much easier to do. It's not based on your income, it's based on the asset itself. The rents will be about $6,850 a month. The 2 bedrooms will rent for $1,250 a month. We know this because we have a lot of property in the area. I put my team in place to help him, and so this project is now well underway. These projects will appraise for about $760,000, so it'll achieve that goal that he had set of $700,000. We'll be able to refinance it at about 75% loan to value and get all of the cash invested back, plus a bit more. And we'll achieve his goal of at least $100,000 in net value increase. So these are the different types of businesses that we can get into and really get pretty explosive growth. Do I have time for questions? Yeah? Okay.
I'll just be really quick.
Yeah.
They purchased 2 properties for $83,000.
Yes.
It's in the U.S.
Yes.
Different ballgame. Yeah.
Yep.
Location.
Yes. Yeah. So the one on the left we purchased for $51,000. The one on the right for 30 something. The one on the left we're actually going to renovate. And the one on the right is going to be a new build we're going to demolish. And I gave him one of the designs from one of my buildings. So these are 3 triplexes. So he's going to take one of those and build that on the right hand side there. So. Okay. Yeah.
I love the width of the client examples.
Yeah.
So let's say we refer somebody to, what's the process like?
So generally, there's really two things that I do. First is what I'll call transformational, where we really focus on what really needs to change in the business to get you to the next level. Then the hard part starts, which is actually staying on the path. So that's really focused on execution. The transformational part is fun and energizing, and then the rubber hits the road and you got to get through the hard stuff. Clear all the roadblocks that are preventing you from making those changes. So both are necessary. Generally, it's a year-long engagement, sometimes longer, depends on what people are trying to do. And so we focus on creating a blueprint for the business, and then we meet every couple of weeks, either face-to-face or over the phone, and focus on the execution part. So really, the ideal client for me is really anyone who's highly ambitious, smart, coachable. That's extremely critical. They're willing to take some risk, and they're a good team player, which means they're willing to bring people into their team and let go of things and delegate things to other team members. If they don't have these qualities, it's very difficult. Okay?
Sorry,
Yes.
So how do you bring it up in conversation? Like there's somebody I'm thinking of but how do I act? So do you have a business coach? I mean, how do you do that?
It's really quite simple. Once you know you just ask people what their goals are, and you say, I know someone who's really successful in business. I should introduce you to them because I think they could make a big difference in enabling you to grow your business. It's that simple. It's a simple introduction.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay.
So I have a friend that owns a cleaning company,
Yeah.
and she was looking to expand into Toronto, and she and I had done a little bit of business stuff together, and she was asking me this. I'm like, this is like, I don't know your numbers. This is way beyond me. Talk to Victor, and like.
Yeah, we've developed a good relationship, and we're having fun together. So yeah.
She's all of those, right? She's smart, she's coachable, she's ambitious, she has a team. She's a pretty savvy girl, but like, she was looking to do things
needed
that,
him.
Yeah.
so beyond me.
All right.
Okay. Thank you.
very much.
All right. Thanks.
I'm sure Victor will be around after to answer questions. And